I'm not gonna go in depth into every answer and kind of like go from the last number to the first number and have some form of suspense. I'm just gonna give you all my list right now and talk briefly about each of the items if I feel like it. So number 3 is Masamune from Final Fantasy, which is Sephiroth's sword. Number 2 is the Braveheart from Kingdom Hearts, which is Riku's newest Keyblade. And number 1 is a Tachi from Trails of Cold Steel, specifically Rin's Tachi. Now, just very briefly going into these, Masamune from Final Fantasy, honestly, this wasn't even on my radar until I played Final Fantasy 16. One thing about me in terms of weapons is katanas are my favorite types of weapon. I just think they look super fucking cool. And so when you got Masamune in Final Fantasy, and I think like the way I can't remember fully, but I think the way you get Masamune is like hella low key. I think I went down some like random path and I just found a treasure chest and I had the Masamune and I was like, holy fuck. And at that point I didn't know that it was Sephiroth's sword. I just remember that I recognized the name. Only later did I realize that it was Sephiroth's sword. I think I just realized from the internet someone mentioning it, and I just liked it because it was just a katana. But after when I found out Sephiroth's sword, I'm like, okay, that's pretty badass. And I pretty much kept that sword as long as possible as I could when playing Final Fantasy 16. At some point I did have to remove it because I got a stronger weapon, but after they added transmogrification in the game where you can just make your sword look like whatever you want, you bet your ass I put the Masamune back on in terms of visuals of the sword, and I kept that for the rest of the game. I just think katanas look super badass. Moving on to number 2 is the Braveheart from Kingdom Hearts. I think I mentioned this in a previous video. I think the Braveheart is easily the best looking Keyblade in the game, and the main reason I really like it is the concept of using a modern key for the Keyblade, because yeah, usually if you look at the Kingdom key, it is based off kind of like cartoon or ancient keys, which is a thin bar with kind of like the teeth at the end, and it works for the Kingdom key. It's not like a disliked or anything, but after I saw the Braveheart, I was like, yeah, I don't know why I never thought of using a modern key for a Keyblade. And the thing I love the most, which I think is kind of underappreciated, it's not like they just took like the end of a real key and put that as a Keyblade, because I could see that'd be kind of whatever, like, because like if you look at the Braveheart, it doesn't actually look like a key. It doesn't actually have like indentations for teeth. It's like they took a key that was uncut and then added more of a flair onto it with those kind of like dimples all around. So it is more of a design than maybe some people may give it credit for, but I just love that it's very symmetric, as in if you look at the silhouette, it's symmetric, but the dimples give it an asymmetric design. So there's kind of like a design philosophy going on with the Braveheart that I just really appreciate. I'm not sure why, it's just very satisfying to me on an aesthetic level. And number 1 is Rin's Tachi from Trails. Like I mentioned with the Masamune, I love katanas, and I googled what the difference between a Tachi and a katana is, because they look the same to me, and apparently Tachi is just supposed to be kind of like a longer, heavier katana. And the main reason why I like the Tachi from Trails of Cold Steel is because it is one of the rare katanas, at least in my experience, is one of the rare katanas in games that deviates from the katana's design. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is, like, for example, Masamune is a perfect example. If you look at the Masamune, it is a katana. Pretty much. Like you can like, if you see the Masamune in real life, you'd be like, oh, that's katana. You wouldn't really be like, oh, that's a Masamune. Like, you wouldn't really recognize that unless like you really know how the Masamune looks. With Rin's Tachi, if you look at it, it is his sword. Like, it is a design specific to them. Like, if you were a fan of Trails of Cold Steel and you saw Rin's Tachi in real life, you'd be like, yo, that's Rin's Tachi. Like, there's no question about it. That's the main reason I like it. They pretty much gave it a design aesthetic that fits in that world, because even though it's not a sci-fi game, they have kind of like sci-fi design elements with people's weapons, because they have like staffs, they have guns, they have swords, but they have kind of like a sci-fi spin to it in some ways. And so Rin's Tachi is just like, if you imagine a katana where the guard of the sword is, it kind of extends back and has like a cool like quarter shuriken design. That's the best way I can explain it, where there's a hole and there's like a part sticking up from behind the guard. So something that I honestly didn't notice this in the games, but I'm seeing this from kind of like the key art from the game, is it has this cool like red string at the end of it, kind of like where the keychain for a Keyblade would be. It has kind of this 2 strands of red string with like golden beads on it. That's super fucking cool. I really love the contrast of that. And I think a defining element of the sword is also that the handle is kind of wrapped with like the golden and purple cloth, or whatever you call it. Design wise, I like it, and I really love it story wise too, because it is an important thing to Rin, and it is his main sword. It is a sword he always uses. And like, I won't go into a spoiler, but there is something about this Tachi that comes later in the game too, which is cool, that happens where he has to kind of make another one. So like, but yeah, that's pretty much my top 3 list. Number 3 was Masamune from Final Fantasy. Number 2 was Braveheart from Kingdom Hearts. Number 1 was Rin's Tachi from Trails of Cold Steel. If you guys have opinions on the top list that I just gave, please let me know down below. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me. Let me know your top weapon. I would love to know what your top weapon is in JRPGs or gaming in general. If you want to give a top list of your weapons, that'd be fucking amazing. I would love to read about that.